What's up, DC Nation? Welcome back to another video, and today we're checking out Joker #1. This issue is written by James Tynion IV and drawn by Julian March. Now, this is a huge deal, guys. Joker is getting his own solo series. Now, this is not the first time he got his own solo series. He actually got one like way back, I think in like the 70s or 80s, but it's been a long time. Now, I know a lot of people have been kind of done with the Joker. We had The Bound Who Laughs, The Darkest Night, we had the Joker War. There's been so much Joker content lately. Dang, I didn't even mention 3 Jokers. But this is still a really exciting issue, a really cool issue, and I actually really enjoyed it. I went into it a little skeptical, but I still think it's a really awesome issue that I'm excited to explain to you guys. But yeah, if you guys are ready, let's dive into this issue. We begin at Abernathy's bar in Gotham City. Commissioner Jim Gordon sits on a stool, and he thinks. He narrates. I spent a lot of time these days thinking about my last night in Chicago, the end of another life. I remember telling Barbara it was less of a goodbye party and more of a good riddance party. I wasn't leaving the city with the best reputation on the force. I'd gotten 5 boys in blue demoted for taking bribes, got a promotion and a transfer to hell as my reward. Let Gotham deal with it, Jim, they said. Maybe those boys will set him straight. Those who dared to show cleared out early, but I lingered. I wasn't ready to go. So Jim is just on the stool, he's drinking, and he's not leaving the bar. He continues to narrate. The train was leaving in the morning. I knew I didn't have time. I knew I had to say my goodbyes to my wife and my daughter, but I was glued to my bar stool, ordering 3 drinks past knowing better. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Jim, tell me this. You old enough to get your boogeyman? That's when Jim looked up, and he recognized the man behind him talking. This man's name was Danny Ryan. He wheezed as he spoke, gasping out each word. Jim could smell mustard on his breath. Now, Danny's father had been one of the golden boys of the Chicago PD in the days of Al Capone. But Jim had never really seen Danny do much but nap at his desk. Now, Jim looks up and says, Boogeyman, and Danny replies, Yeah, the perp you see when you close your eyes at night. The one who is worse than all the others. Now, Jim, with one of his eyes already closed, says, I've seen some rough things, Danny, here in the war. Now, Danny cuts off Jim, saying, I figured you were too young still. There's a horror to war I'm never going to understand. And I'm not going to insult you by pretending. But at least in war, there's that knowledge that people have been going to battle as long as there's been people. There's a sixth sense to it all. But it's different on the home front, on the streets, when you see barbarism where it's not meant to be. Now, Jim looks away and says, I think I'm gonna call it, Danny. Let me pick up your tab. Now, Danny then looks at him and says, No, damn it. Jim, listen to an old farts a second. You might learn something. Do you believe in evil? And Jim replies, yeah, sure. That's when Danny continues saying, You're so young, I can't stand it. This is all hypothetical of you. You still think this is a game? That it matters that you brought down a few guys in the take? You're just kids playing cops and robbers. Now, Jim puts money on the table and says, I'm leaving, Dan. And Dan smiles, saying, I was just a few years older than you when I saw the devil. He was eating the face off a 17-year-old girl. When he saw me, he smiled and held out a stripe, asking if I wanted a bite. I tried to follow the book, trained my gun on him, and told him to drop the knife. He just started laughing. He threw it into my leg and got out onto the fire escape. Never caught him, never got another lead. But every night when I close my eyes, I see him sitting there holding out that piece for me to eat. Now, Jim, looking very surprised, his eyes wide open, says, Why the hell are you telling me this? Now, Dan picks up Jim's drink and says, There's the law. There's respecting the system as it's supposed to work, serving and protecting ordinary people, keeping the peace. And I know that's important to you, Jim, and I admire that. My daddy would have admired that too. But there's the law, and there's evil, Jim. And when you see evil, you aim for the head. Now, Dan picks up the drink and takes a sip. Now, Jim starts to walk away and says, Good night, Dan. Now, Jim continues to walk out of the bar, and he narrates, I figure I was like the other old cops, telling people to turn a blind eye to the corruption I saw in my fellow officers, because we're the last line of defense for the common man. I heard that one a lot over the years. Every time I tried to put a dirty cop behind bars, or try to throw a bad man off the force. It took me a few years to understand that he wasn't talking about that at all. He was giving me a warning, and now I see the devil each night when I close my eyes. So basically, this encounter with Dan actually left something on Jim. This was when Jim was young. He was a young officer. He walked away, and over the years, the devil became the Joker. And we see this image of Jim in his bed, he's sleeping, but all he sees is the Joker. The Joker is Commissioner Gordon's boogeyman. In present day, we see the fallouts of the Joker toxin attack on Arkham Asylum. Gotham is calling it either a day or the death of Arkham Asylum. More than 500 patients died. It was an altered version of the Joker toxin that was released. Victims smiled, but they didn't laugh, so no one could hear the gas spreading from room to room. Only a couple nurses survived the attack. They were saved by an officer who sacrificed his life to get them out. This officer's name was Sean Mahoney. He saved the nurses, but he also caused the asylum to blow up and burn on accident. 50 to 100 patients left the asylum when everyone else died. The death toll is unknown. The presumed dead include Jeremiah Arkham, Jonathan Crane, and hundreds of less colorful patients. Batman watches the aftermath from above on a gargoyle. The most shocking death in the attack was Bane. Murals are being painted across the city. Thugs are shocked that Bane is dead. Jim does not think he is actually dead though. He asks the city if he could examine Bane's body, but Jim was denied the opportunity. Jim meets up with Mayor Nakano and finds out there is a new commissioner. Mayor Nakano demoted Harvey Bullock. Nakano shows Jim some images from months prior of the Joker. They believe that the Joker left gas bombs in the asylum and set them to go off months after he left Gotham. Jim already knew this information going into Nakano's office. Batman told Jim about 2 days prior. Nakano offers Jim a job on going after the Joker. Jim declines. Jim will help out Nakano once Nakano stops hunting the Batman. Jim heads back to his apartment and finds a call from Bullock. Bullock asks Jim if he can help him with cases on cheating spouses. Jim remembers his history with his wife, Sarah. Jim declines. His daughter, Barbara, has told him to close his eyes and picture the future. But when Jim closes his eyes, all he sees is the Joker laughing. Jim walks across Gotham, notices that young citizens are praising Punchline and wearing clown masks like the Joker. Gotham is becoming Joker City every day. Jim meets up with Barbara. They have a nice dinner, but Jim still sees Joker everywhere. Jim remembers what Joker did to Barbara, but at least she got better. Jim's son, James, on the other hand, didn't. James was already in a bad state, but Joker manipulated him further, and eventually, James died. After Jim's dinner with Barbara, he goes to the gravesite of his dead son. Jim cries and closes his eyes, but when he closes his eyes, he hears Joker laughing at him. Jim walks out of the gravesite, and a car pulls up to him. A woman named Cressida opens the door and tells Jim to get in. She needs to talk to him about the Joker. Jim gets in the car, and they drive off. Cressida takes Jim to her big mansion. It's a mansion that belongs to her family. Cressida doesn't reveal who her family is. Jim looks at Cressida's bodyguard and asks her what the bodyguard's name is. Cressida tells Jim not to worry about it. Cressida then pulls out a picture of Joker in Belize. He attacked the place a few weeks after he left Gotham. Jim asks Cressida why she is telling him this information. Cressida thinks Jim is the perfect man to hunt the Joker. Cressida knows Jim's history with the Joker, but Jim doesn't know if he can do this, if he could go on the mission. But he thinks, why would he drop everything to go to Belize and confront the Joker? Jim is supposed to be in retirement. Cressida promises to give Jim a bank card with no spending limits for his mission. And if Jim takes down the Joker, then Cressida will give him $25 million. Jim is shocked. He can't even comprehend that kind of money. Now, Jim then agrees to capture the Joker, but then Cressida corrects him, saying, "No, you misunderstand, Mr. Gordon. We want you to kill him." Jim is shocked. He's not a hitman. Cressida then asks Jim, "Do you believe in evil?" Jim hesitates for a second, then says, "Yes, I do." Cressida gives Jim 1 week to decide if he'll do the mission. Cressida walks away with her bodyguard, telling Jim, "He's out there, Jim. You know he's planning something big. A-Day was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of one." Jim remembers what his buddy Danny told him. If Jim goes after the Joker, he'll make sure to aim for the head. We go to Belize and we see a mansion out in the forest. A multitude of people are dead. We see the Joker outside by a pool, a dead woman below him. Joker picks up a paper of the Gotham Gazette. He notices the article on the death of Arkham Asylum. Joker says, "Oh, this is all about to get very interesting, isn't it?" So that was The Joker #1. And guys, I really enjoyed this issue. It was well written by James Tynion. And guys, James Tynion sometimes has a tendency to overwrite, but here, every word made sense. Like, he didn't overwrite. Yes, there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of narration from Commissioner Gordon, but it all makes sense. And it's very interesting going into the mind of him, right? Going into the mind of Jim Gordon. Seeing him, like, kind of be traumatized by the Joker, what the Joker did to Barbara and James Gordon. Like, James, his son, is dead. So we see this impact that the Joker has left on Commissioner Gordon, and it's super good. Like, it's written so well. You can see like the trauma that's been left on Jim, right? I really like it. Now, I also like the parallels of Jim Gordon and this older man named Danny, who pretty much Jim met with this guy at like a bar, which this bar's name was Abernathy Bar, which that's a reference to Ben Abernathy, the guy who's like kind of like the overseer of all the Batman comics. But still, we see Jim in his younger years. He goes to the bar and he talks to this guy, and Danny telling him about like this boogeyman. At the beginning of the issue, I was like, okay, where is James Tynion going with this? And we see that Danny had this boogeyman, this guy that laughed at him one night when Danny saw this guy literally eating out the face of a 17-year-old girl, and it traumatized Danny. But over the years, Danny had that boogeyman in his mind, and he kept going after this guy. Eventually, though, that boogeyman took over Danny, and Danny killed himself. And I'm like, wow, like how it's like paced throughout the issue is super interesting. And that parallel from Danny to now Jim, and how the Joker is Jim's boogeyman, and that each time Jim goes after the Joker and goes up against him, it drives Jim further into not insanity, but being caught up into this trauma. And you are left with this thing that, wait, will Jim eventually kill himself? Will Joker eventually get so much into Jim's mind that it'll be too much for Jim? Like, we see that Danny's boogeyman got into his mind too much, but Joker hasn't got into Jim's mind that much that it drives Jim to pretty much suicide. So it's really good parallels. And the end of the issue, where Jim is offered to go on this mission to kill the Joker by Cressida and this other bodyguard, which is more just Cressida. Which, by the way, that bodyguard, I wonder who he is. You guys, some of your theories down below. There wasn't really hints in the issue, but if you guys can figure it out somehow, that'd be awesome. We'll probably find out about it in later issues, but for now, though, Cressida, her whole background is mysterious. I'm excited to dive deeper into her background and find out more about her in the coming issues. But yeah, guys, how this issue ends with Joker just in Belize. He killed a bunch of people, and now Commissioner Gordon is going after the Joker. Like, that's so cool. I'm happy that this series isn't actually from the Joker's point of view. I'm happy that it's about Commissioner Gordon going after the Joker. And you could say this is more like a Commissioner Gordon series, but still involves the Joker and shows like the Joker's impact. I feel like stories that talk about the Joker's impact instead of like his actual character are better, because we can see by 3 Jokers, when you actually start revealing things about the Joker's character, about his identity and everything like that, most fans don't like that, and it pretty much takes away from like the uncertainty factor of the Joker. So I'm happy that James Tynion didn't go in that direction. And guys, that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about the writing. The art by Julian March is actually really good. Most of the times I don't really like Julian March's artwork because it's kind of like disproportioned and very like creepy-like, but in a Batman comic it doesn't really fit if it's just like Batman versus Ghostmaker and some other stories, but here it fits perfectly because it's about the Joker. It's supposed to look creepy and characters are supposed to look disproportioned. So yeah, I feel like the artwork and the writing fits perfectly together, and yeah, I'm excited to see where this series goes, guys. I'm actually really like hyped about this Joker series, and that's why I'm gonna give this first issue a 9 out of 10. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. And yeah, you guys, some of your thoughts on this issue down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And yeah, if you liked the video, give a big thumbs up. New channel, make sure to subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss out on my next Joker comic review. And yeah, thanks for watching and peace out.